Hi everybody. So today we're looking at features that are most often found in the lower course of a river. Remember, a river is broken into three sections, and this is a diagram of its long profile. You've got the upper course near the source, the middle course, and the lower course. In the upper course, you get normally waterfalls and interlocking spurs. The middle course, more meanders and oxbow lakes that we've learned about last time. And today we're going to focus on features that we might expect to find in the lower course of a river. So just to remind ourselves about the lower course of the river, this is where the river is at its widest, you can see here, and the channel is often quite deep as well in the lower course. So therefore the river itself has got a high volume. There's a lot of water flowing through that river. So we call that a large discharge, a large amount of water in the river. It's also flowing first because there's a lot of it. Often rivers in their lower course don't look like they're flowing first, but they are. And the river is deep and wide, and the valley around it, the land around it here, is flat, and that flat land extends for quite a long way, so the valley is wide. The upper course, you get this V-shaped valley. The middle course, more of a U-shaped valley. In the lower course is very flat, wide valley. And the features that we'd expect to find in the lower course that we're learning about today are floodplains and levees. Okay, and these are both features which are caused by deposition. In the upper course of the river, the features there, like waterfalls, are mainly caused by erosion. In the middle course of the river, meanders and oxbow lakes are caused by a mixture of erosion and deposition. And then here in the lower course, these features are mainly caused by deposition. And this is where the material that the river is carrying, the silty, sandy, soily sediment, is dropped off by the river in various places. Okay, so floodplains first. You've got two things to do here. Go on to Time for Geography and watch this clip about how floodplains are formed and what causes their formation. Okay, and then complete this gap fill activity. So write it out, and these are your missing words to fill into the gaps. Just going to not look because the answers to that are on the next few slides. Okay, so you can check it yourself, but try and be strict with yourself. Don't just copy it from the answers. So essentially this is a floodplain here. Okay, this is what it'd be like in a normal condition. You've got the river flowing down here, meandering through the floodplain. The floodplain is this flat land on either side, and you can see it's this wide, flat valley. And throughout the year, at various times, the river might flood. So it will overflow its banks, and the water will run out onto that flat land either side of the river. Okay, and that's where the river has overflowed. And what happens when the river floods is with it, the sediment that the river's carrying comes out of the river as well. So all that sand and soil and silt that's in the river gets carried out of the river onto the floodplain. And when the water goes away, what's left behind is called alluvium. And alluvium is sediment or silt which is deposited by a river when it floods. And it makes the land on the side of the river really fertile, really good for growing crops in, because that alluvium is very high in nutrients. So you often get, next to a river in its lower course, farmland, agricultural land. Okay, so that is the formation of floodplains. So to remind you, you've got the video clip to watch and then the fill in the gap activity. You'll need to write that couple of paragraphs out and fill in the missing words. The other thing that happens when a river floods is either side of a river, on its river bank here and here, you can get something called a levee forming. Okay, you can get natural levees, which is what we're interested in, but just to be aware, you can also get man-made levees, but we're talking about natural levees. Okay, and levees are embankments. That's like a raised up bank of the river, and it's caused by the deposition of material when it floods. Because what happens is when a river floods, the material it's carrying, the sediment that it's carrying, is sorted by that flooding process. The smaller pieces gets carried further into the floodplain either side, away from the river, and the larger pieces get deposited right next to the river because the river's got less energy to carry them. Okay, so on the river bank, closest to the river, the material builds up. Okay, and the river bank gets higher and higher and higher. Every time it floods, it gets a little bit higher. And that's this feature here that you can see on this river, a levee. This is a natural levee that's just been formed by the river flooding over and over again. And that river bank getting taller and taller each time because the biggest material is deposited here and the smallest particles get carried a long way into the floodplain, further into the floodplain. So it looks like this. Here's a river before it floods. During the flood, this embankment gets formed. These largest pieces of sediment get deposited here close to the river. Okay, the river goes down, the same thing happens again, the same thing might happen again in 5 years' time. Over the period of time after many floods, those levees get taller and taller, higher and higher, either side of the river, creating these natural levees that we can see here. Okay, you can get man-made ones. Some rivers, people might build a levee on the side of it to try and increase the volume of water that can be kept in the river to try and reduce the risk of flooding. Okay, but this is a natural process, the formation of natural levees. Okay, so 2 things to do here. Write these statements out in the right order. So these statements here describe how levees are formed. Okay, so write these statements out in the right order. The answers are on the next slide again, so you can check. And then draw and label these diagrams as well. Okay, any problems, just send me an email and we can work them out together. Hope you're all well, and I'll see you later in the week for another lesson. Bye.